Hi, my name is Jim, and I'm a parishioner at St. Mary's. About 12 years ago, I retired. Approximately 7 years ago, I picked up beekeeping as a hobby. Currently, I run about 20 hives. I raise my own bees, sell my own bees, and other products like honey and wax. So today, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of a hive and what it consists of. A normal beehive consists of a front entrance, which is at the very bottom, and you can see the bees coming and going through a screen. That screen is just there to prevent mice from getting in early in the spring. And there's two boxes. Both boxes have approximately 10 frames in each, and that's where the bees lay their eggs and raise their brood. And on the top there's a cover, protects it from the weather. So to protect myself from the bees, I have a bee suit with a veil that goes over top, covers your head from getting stung. And I always use a smoker. Smoker, when it's applied on the top of the bees, they don't like it, so it kind of moves them away from the area that you're trying to work. Just prevent you from getting less stings, and yes, they can sting through your pants, but most area that I'm worried about is my eyes and my hands. Okay, now, so I'm going to remove the outer lid and show you what's inside the body of the hive. Underneath I have a piece of pink styrofoam to protect them in the winter from the cold air. And this is an inner cover, provides further protection, and the bees can't escape from through the top. They can only go through the entrances. And as you take it off, you'll see all the bees attached to the upper lid. So these bees aren't really doing very much. Over 95% of the bees, or 97% of the bees in the hive will be actually female worker bees. And when they're hatched out of a cell, they have various jobs to do as they progress in age. They only live approximately 6 weeks in the summertime. In the fall, the queen produces winter bees, which last all the way through the winter. So I put them away in November and wake them up again in March, and that whole time they have to look after their own bodily functions, and unfortunately it's only when it gets warm can they go out and have a poo. So they're pretty amazing insects. The winter bees also have a lot of fat on their body, which is inside, you don't see it, and it allows them to withstand the cold in the winter. And the fat reserves also help them in keeping the hive warm. They do that by vibrating their bodies. The internal temperature of the hive is approximately 93 degrees, and that's even in the dead of winter, minus 40 degrees. So I'll just put this down slowly. I don't see any queen bee. The queen bee is the one that lays all the eggs in the hive. And what I have here is, these are called pollen patties. This is a pollen supplement. And because there's very little pollen coming in right now, I give them a supplement, which is sugar and pollen, and you can see they've eaten right through the paper and eating the pollen supplement. That helps the queen to produce more baby bees in the spring. So I'm just going to take that off, lay it back on the side, and then I'm going to open the hive. The outside of the hive, this consists of 10 frames. Usually the outer 2 on each side, so this one and these 2, usually consist of honey, and the brood, or what the queen lays, the eggs, are generally confined to the center of the hive, so the other 6 frames. Now because this box is too deep, in other words there's 20 frames, when they get in full swing she can probably have 50,000 bees in her hive, and she will lay eggs, 2,000 sometimes a day, and she will produce both boxes full of bees. So one thing the bees do is produce more bees. So I'll have to, in the spring, in May, cut these boxes in half, and I produce my own queens through grafting process, which is another whole story. So the bees are very docile right now. Notice they're not jumping out at me or anything, but I am wearing hand protection. These are kind of a rubber glove that the bees don't like me, can't sting through. And if you notice when I put some smoke on the bees, they kind of disappear down between the frames. I just wanted to show you that, what they do. So this is a hive tool. A hive tool basically allows me to open the frames, move the frames, and pull them out. So as I said, the first frame in the hive, first 2 frames on either side, are frames of honey, and these bees went into the fall with approximately 100 pounds, so 50 pounds in each hive. And so what you see here, if you can see it properly, is a lot of glistening inside the frames. That is actually nectar that the bees have already collected somewhere out here around this apiary, and they may have gotten it from the sap of maple trees or somewhere. So they're bringing it in and storing it in the cells. They will cure that honey down. In other words, they process it through their bodies, push it into the cells, and then after a while from fanning, they will reduce the water content down below 18.6 and turn that watery liquid into honey. So what you have here, this is leftover honey from the winter. And so if I pick at that, inside of it you'll see the honey that was stored behind that. And they cap every little cell that's stored with honey with wax. That honey will last up to 2,000 years. They've actually found it in the tombs of the ancient pharaohs. So it's a very, very non-perishable food. So what I'll do is I'll just lay this frame down to the side and I'll go on and show you a little bit further in. Next frame, as I explained, is also going to be honey. And in this one, there are actually what's called pollen. So pollen comes from flowers. Most people know what it is. And there's actually some pollen, if you can see, stored. And it's little yellow blobs. It'll be down in this area here, inside the frames. And this is actually stored by the bees, so they collect it from flowers or buds of trees, and they push it inside the cell. And that pollen is used for helping the queen produce eggs. So they feed this food to the larvae, which are hatched out from an egg. So the next frame in, as I potentially we'll start to see some eggs in this frame. These are getting a little more agitated as I get in towards the center. Okay, so in this frame, I want to just show you honey on the outside. On the outside of the frame, which I showed you earlier. Some pollen, which is here. And in the center here, you'll see these little dark covered cells. That's actually baby bees that are hatching out. If you look really, really close, around those you'll see a white material. It's kind of curled up, and that's the larva of a bee. When it gets to a certain stage after feeding, the worker bees will feed that and then cap the cell off. And in a very short time, within approximately 3 weeks, 21 days, that'll hatch out and you'll get new babies. So again, there's lots of yellow there, which is actually pollen. So we know that this hive is viable in that the queen is laying eggs. And I'll go through another frame here just to see. Bees are very nice today. Sometimes they get agitated and come out. And yes, I do get stung. But it depends how active the bees are generally. And again, here you see lots of larvae that are capped over. And inside those other cells, you'll see the white brood. And I want to show you one here. So this one here, the round one, is actually called a drone. And a drone is a male bee. Their only good in life is to mate with the queen. They do nothing else. They lay around the hive and eat. And then the same on this side, you have lots of capped brood, and all in between the cells, the queen has laid eggs. So these capped brood are all beginning to hatch out, and the queen is now laying eggs. In fact, here's the queen right here. So the queen is a larger bee, and she is right here. She doesn't like to be seen outside the hive. That's why she's kind of running around. And you notice she's a golden color. She's twice the size of another bee. So that's the queen right there. She's going to probably crawl around the other side of this hive. I'll let her go. I don't want to bother too much. So I'll do one more frame just to see what else we have. So the bees stick these frames together to keep them tight with propolis and wax. And propolis is a sapping material they get from trees. Bees are very quiet on this frame also, and underneath them are brood that are hatching out. And there's all kinds of larvae underneath that. So this queen is doing relatively well over the winter. And again, the same thing on this side. The bees are hatching out and the queen is laying more eggs. So I'm quite satisfied with this hive. So one thing that's very hard on the bees is a parasite called Varroa, and they get on the bees and they will suck the blood and fat tissue out of the bees. And when they do that, it introduces diseases into the bees. So the bees have to be treated 2 to 3 times a year with Varroa control, which is an oxalic acid or another type of acid to help reduce the Varroa on the bees. Bees are getting a little agitated here. They're trying to sting me a bit, but not too bad. Actually, we have a bee that, I don't know if you can see it here or not, right here. It's got a little yellow on the back of its legs. There is some pollen coming in right now, but that pollen is coming probably from alders or willow trees. Here's another one right here with yellow sacs on his legs. And again, she'll find a cell, put that honey or that pollen down in the cell, and then feed it back to the baby bees as they're raised. So as the queen lays more eggs, more bees get raised, and the hive gets busier. As an aside, one of the bees did try to sting me through the glove. Of course, the glove prevented it. This is the actual stinger right here, stuck in the glove. And that little white thing on the end of it is actually a venom sac. And it pumps the venom into your skin. So if you get it on, you just got to pick it off, and that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this short video today and learned a little bit about the bees. I call my beekeeping charity business as Believing Him Apiary. And currently I have about 20 hives, and I sell my honey and wax products, and I also, as I said earlier, split my bees. In other words, I can produce my own queens from grafting, and when those queens are hatched out, I place them in other hives, starting off new hives. So it's a very tedious business, as anybody in the beekeeping business would know. But I do enjoy it. It's a great hobby. All right. God bless you all.